Welcome to Novelist Spotlight. This is Mike Consol, your host. Two quick things before introducing you to my guest. First, I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast by clicking on the follow button and also clicking on the bell icon so you're alerted to each new edition of the program. Second, in addition to being the producer of this podcast and interviewing novelists, I am a novelist myself. I've written 4 books, 3 novels, and 1 short story collection. In the episode notes, you will find a short link to my Amazon page and all 4 of those titles. Now, on with our program. In the spotlight is Jim Gregory, who, in addition to being a novelist, has 40 years of experience in advertising and branding, and he's an expert on corporate brand management and is credited with developing strategies for measuring the power of brands and their impact on corporations' financial performance. Most notable of those tools that he has developed is the Core Brand Index, a quantitative research vehicle that continuously tracks the reputation and financial performance of more than 800 publicly traded companies across 50 industries. I don't know that that includes publishing. You might be saying, yeah, branding, advertising. I thought this was about novelists. Well, one of the things, I was just talking to Jim offline, one of the things that we always are challenged by is how do we sell our books? How do we push them? Even if we go the traditional route, a publishing company expects, put an oar in the water. Don't leave it all on us. Do you have any chops in terms of marketing, promotion, branding, and so on? Now, Jim Gregory is a frequent speaker on the financial benefits of communications and brand management. And he points out that one of the secrets of his business and professional success has been his passion for writing. Over 4 decades, he wrote a series of business books that helped build his business brand and his personal reputation. Those titles include Leveraging the Corporate Brand, Branding Across Borders, Marketing Corporate Image, The Best of Branding, and Powerhouse, The Secrets of Corporate Branding. After successfully exiting the business, he embarked on a new direction, which is why he's on the program, fiction writing. He soon discovered his favorite genre, or at least his strategy was short reads in the form of novellas. We'll talk to him about that. He looks to craft stories that can be enjoyed in just one sitting, such as an evening at home or a cross-country flight. Jim Gregory has written 4 works of fiction. They are titled Small Fortunes, Stones in a Glass House, Fortune Teller, and Zephyr's War. Jim Gregory, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mike. It's great to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, it's great to have a successful business professional on the program, especially somebody who knows so much about advertising and branding and direct marketing and so on. And has a passion for writing, and not just writing. Obviously, you had a passion for writing because you're writing business books, but then in addition to that, you turn to fiction now. So it's interesting to have somebody with your business background and understanding of promotion to be joining us here. Let me start by talking to you about branding versus direct marketing. There was a time when the internet came along in direct marketing where, hey, look, you can find your audience very quickly through Twitter and Facebook and so on. So rather than just spending a lot of money just trying to reach everybody and hope that some of these people are readers, and not just readers, but readers of fiction, now you can do direct marketing. It's very targeted marketing. But at the same, so when that happened, Jim, as you know, a lot of people said branding is dead. Branding is over. That hasn't proved to be the case, though. But I did want to just ask you, and one of the reasons why I'm interested in the subject is what we do when we publish novels and try to promote them. We tend to do direct marketing, and that might very well be the best way to handle promotion of a novel. But branding has certainly survived this foretold death of branding. When you look to branding versus direct marketing, and I think you probably would agree there's a place for both of them. But what about that whole branding versus direct marketing juxtaposition? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you're absolutely right about everything matters. It all works together to build sales and build an image out there. Um, and branding is everything you say and do, whether it's the corporate brand or whether it's product branding. Everything matters, and that's true in book writing and book selling as well. Um, I've been I've been fortunate enough throughout my career to be able to have experiences from another number of different angles. McGraw-Hill was my first publisher, and we worked with them on a number on the books that you had mentioned, the business books. And what was really interesting about that is not only was McGraw-Hill a major publisher, but they owned Business Week magazine. And Business Week magazine was my client, and they believed in branding, but they didn't. They wanted somebody else talking about branding, so they would hire me to go around the world. They literally sent me around the world twice, speaking at all the different countries where they were selling their advertising, and had different editions, and so they promoted me and my books in these countries. So there was pressure to continue to write on the subject and do research on brand building by both the publisher McGraw-Hill and my client Business Week, and they were working together to put these books out in various languages. I was pretty young at the time, and I really didn't realize what a wonderful what a wonderful gig I had. I
It
did.
sounds like it for
Yeah,
sure. You went around the world twice.
I did realize it, but it was just wonderful. And the whole time, if somebody was interested in hiring a consultant, there I was. I was a consultant on branding that they happened to meet at this marketing conference or sales conference or whatever it was. So it was a fabulous way to build a brand as well as to market to write books and market those books. So the whole system worked together, and it was just phenomenal. It really put us on the map in a big way, and got other publishers such as Dow Jones and the Wall Street Journal supporting the concept as well. And so it was a run that we had of about 20 years of this uh, fast-paced, growing entity, and it was magical. It just happened really well. Well, when I began to think about retiring, uh, I as soon as I sold my company in 2013, I felt an emptiness about this writing. I did enjoy writing. I often had a co-author on my business books because I just didn't have the time to do all the writing myself, but I did have the clarity of ideas and the direction I wanted to go in. So my co-author would work on it all the time as a full-time job, and then I would read what he wrote and make comments and suggestions and that sort of thing. But when I got out, all of a sudden there was this void, and I am a storyteller. That's how got accounts. That's how I built businesses and to tell their stories, and I had stories to tell. And the first two stories that I developed after selling the business was Columbia the Street, which was a memoir of my early years, from my first memories up to I was about 10 years old, and the importance of community, and how I got along with my brothers. I was the youngest of five, and the neighbors and all that. So this was a real different experience, and it was exciting and fun to write, really fun to write, because I contacted old neighbors and my brothers and would get stories from them. So we had a grand time doing that. But when it was finished, I was then faced with the idea that I had to market it. So it was self-published through a publisher, a group called Bestseller Publishing, and they really helped me get the book, completed, get it printed, get it out into the marketplace. But it was entirely up to me to how to market it and how to build the revenue, sales revenue around that. I did a second book with them called Small Fortunes, and that was the trilogy that you had mentioned: Small Fortunes, Stones in a Glass House, and Fortune Teller. These are all novellas about how I met my future partner when I was 23 years old, who happened to also be my future wife, and how we met in New York City on a subway on a rainy night. And I offered her my umbrella, and we arranged to have lunch together. And it was from there. It was we fell in love and built a business. We, but she had a very she was
So she
doing
became, did she become your business partner first and then life
yes,
partner? Yes.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
'Cause
We
she's in the
worked.
business as well, was in the business as well with you.
Yes, she was always in the business. We worked together for 5 years before we got married. We were busy as heck.
You don't know a person until you work with them, right, Jim?
That's right. I
Don't pull
mean,
the trigger on marriage until you work with somebody and lived
a,
with them.
a lot of people can't do it, and I have been told, but for me and for my wife Evelyn, it was a natural, and we've it's just been really, really good and solid. But Small Fortunes brings out some of the issues that we had. She didn't want to get married. She just wasn't interested, and she didn't think I was marriage material, and.
Well, that's not a vote of confidence,
And
Jim.
so we loved each other working together, but she wasn't so
I
sure
wasn't
that,
so sure about your brand, huh? You
yeah,
needed to do a little branding with it.
exactly. So I had to sell her on me. And that's what the Stones in a Glass House are about. And then Fortune Teller is a novella about how she saved the company. We became under attack when I was on one of these long journeys around the world, and a couple of folks tried to steal our clients right out from under us, and she put an end to that, and it was pretty impressive. I think of that often, and how wonderful she was throughout the process. So that did very well. That was also done through bestseller publishing, and uh, uh, and it's sold. I mean, it did very well through mostly on Amazon, and became a bestseller as was promised by bestseller publishing.
Now,
So
that was Fortune Teller?
Small Fortunes.
Small Fortunes. Gotcha.
Right. Then I changed direction a little bit. I had kind of told my story, and so these were a couple of memoirs about our life and all of that. And I changed direction. I wanted to tell stories about my experiences around the world. And Zephyr's War, I wrote that book about pre-Ukraine and Russia going to war. And I was at a conference in Kiev, and giving this wonderful conference, and had saw a lot of tension between the Russian attendees and the Ukrainian attendees. And I sensed that there was going to be a war. So I developed a story around that, and how Ukrainians are very entrepreneurial and very sophisticated in terms of the world of capitalism and all that. And they aspire to build businesses.
And they
And
wanted to align with the West, which is part of the issue, right?
that's
Rather,
that's
yeah,
exactly
they
right.
didn't see a future with Putin, and they looked to the West and say, this is more our vibe. This is more what we do. We're entrepreneurial. We like the freedom. We like the openness.
That's exactly right. And I wanted to capture that. I wanted to capture that sense of entrepreneurship and the desire to grow the business, to grow a business. And so Zephyr is a the capitalist who comes to the U.S. and wants to launch an IPO on Wall Street, and the Russian mafia follows him and wants their piece of the action, and he resists, and that's the tension in the book. And that was so I needed a different kind of publisher here, and so I went with Morgan James. So Morgan James is a smaller, on the smallish side, but they really produce high quality books and really work with you. David Hancock, I met, and it gives you personal attention for the CEO who reaches out and works with you to make sure he's capturing what you want, is really pretty amazing. And he has weekly meetings where all the authors that he works with can call in and participate and ask any questions. So pretty
Did you go to
amazing.
him? Did you go to Morgan James Publishing directly, or did you have an agent who introduced you?
Well, actually, it was through Bestseller Publishing that I met him. So they saw the need for me to not to I don't want to use the word upgrade, but to have a bigger presence, to have a publisher that understood larger scale publishing and distribution. So that's been out a little over a year.
Now, did that book come out before the invasion from
No,
Putin
no.
started? So it happened. You saw it. It was going to happen. You could feel it.
Yep.
Then it begins, and then that made your novella all the more timely. Then
Yeah, it did. Interesting. The timing on this was just phenomenal, and so it's the same with Killer App. I tried to do topical subjects that are in the news, and but a different kind of angle on them, a different take on the topical subjects. So, like this, Zephyr's War is definitely about the topical subject of the war that's about to happen, but on a smaller scale. It's these two very difficult people who are both. And Zephyr, the protagonist in here, he's no saint. He's pretty rough around the edges as well. So
but he's the entrepreneur, and he's looking to do an
yes,
IPO. What was
yes.
his company?
He would buy and sell companies to try to grow the business so it was large enough to any business. He was hungry for any business. Um,
So kind of a
the
private equity
family,
player. He was
yeah,
kind of in the private equity business. Okay.
right. The company, his background, the family owned a farm right near Chernobyl. And after the accident at Chernobyl, the entire family was wiped out except Zephyr and his brother, and they were away at college, and that's the only reason they survived. So the first business they buy in the U.S. is a farm, and so they start growing sunflowers, which was what they did in Ukraine, and then quickly sold that and changed into the next business. They finally developed a consumer products business, and that's what they took public. And I've been told, I mean, I have a lot of experience on Wall Street in terms of helping companies to become IPOs, to launch IPOs. So I had a very good sense of what's involved and how it works, and the New York Stock Exchange was one of my clients for a period of time. So I bring all those things into the story, and I've been told that it really does represent the IPO process, which is very gratifying.
Yeah, the roadshow and all that.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
yeah, in the thing is that the talk these days is that when this conflict ends, which it doesn't appear that Russia is really going to be able to take over Ukraine in its entirety, but during this war, the Ukrainians have shown their entrepreneurs, not entrepreneurism and their inventiveness, because they've built their own really military equipment industry. They're making drones, both sea drones and air drones, and so on. And the feeling is that when this conflict finally ends, they're going to be a major supplier of weaponry across Europe that
Yes.
they'll sell across Europe. They're really deep into it right now, and as you know, the rest of Europe is really boning up on their military chops because for fear that Putin is going to look to reassemble the old, USSR, so to speak. Not that it would come under that name again. I was talking, getting back to branding. I was talking, and we'll get back to writing as well, Jim. But I was doing a podcast. I do podcasts for the company that I work for as well, and I was the CEO, and I do a podcast every month. And he had just read this book on branding that he was very high on. He's a voracious reader, has read a lot on branding before, but this one really lit him up. And but one of the points he made is that the reason branding is not dead and will never be dead is, when you call an organization looking for a meeting and your name is Apple, people immediately will say yes to that meeting, um, and it because everybody knows Apple. And branding brings a company's name or even a person's name to the fore. And well, it's very broad based, unlike direct marketing or targeted marketing. So often, what do? We call people looking for a meeting. And if it's kind of like, I've never heard of your company, I don't know who you are, I'm not sure I should even bother with this. Good luck getting the phone call returned. But if
That's
your
right.
name is, Apple or it's Nike or some of the other big brands, that phone call is going to get returned with a great deal of enthusiasm. Let me ask you this: the who's the biggest brand in the novel writing business? Would you say among authors? So if you were to identify somebody, this man or this woman is a real brand, who would you cite as the biggest brand?
Well, think that Tom Clancy would be the biggest brand from the past. From my era. I think Tom Clancy and the books that he has written really inspired me to write. He could spend 2 pages talking about the spin of a bullet down the barrel, and how that changed the world. Anybody who can do that is just, I salute them. And he's passed away a quite a long time ago,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's still you see a Tom Clancy book on the shelf, and there are other writers who are imitating him. And it's a style and is a brand that has really been remarkable.
And
Um,
TV shows, and yeah, it's
oh,
a franchise. It's a
it
franchise, so it's still cranking out money long after Tom Clancy passed away.
exactly right. So that is a brand, and that's one way to assess it. Another one from the past is James Michener. Um,
Hmm.
I just his book Chesapeake was the first book that I really, big book that I really took on and read. And I've read it several times because I live part-time on the James River in Williamsburg. And when we take out the kayaks, I think about the Native Americans who were he describes in the book, and I mean it's the same spot, it's the same area, and it's just so thrilling to be able to think the way he thinks, and he puts you right there in the canoe, and it's just a remarkable writer that can do that, and
Hmm.
I salute him. But more recently, many good authors out right now. Barry Eisler, uh, his he his early book, A Clean Kill in Tokyo. Um, I just reread it recently, and it's such a good book. And it's just the protagonist gets into situations where there's no way out, and finds a way out. Another recent one is Armor Tolls from a gentleman in Moscow. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Amor Tolls, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just a gentleman in Moscow is just a wonderful book. I mean, he's describing a person who is stuck in this hotel his entire life, and how, you know, I would think that would be the most boring book in the world, and yet you're hanging on every page. Um, and a couple of really new ones. These are first time authors. Gail Honeyman. She wrote Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Do you know that book?
I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
Oh, such a good book. You feel for this person in such a way that she had a real traumatic childhood, and mental issues that she couldn't overcome until she reached adulthood. But she struggled with those, and you're in her shoes. You're sensing how terrible it is to have this problem hanging over you, and how she uh, peels back the onion and to solve it with her psychiatrist. It's just a wonderful book. And finally, the last one I'll mention is Victoria Schwab, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Oh my God, my wife read that book. She absolutely loved it.
Oh, what a
Told many
book!
people about it. Yeah.
What a book. She makes a deal with the devil, and she lives for 300 years with this deal that she made hanging over her. And it's just remarkable. I've never read a book that is that unique and that interesting. I would love to be able to write like that. Not that my books are boring, but man, these are future brands. These are the brands that are coming up because she has got to be writing more books, and both of them are just great. They're all good. All the ones I mentioned are either brands that classics or in the making.
Well, and on a very big scale, we'd have to say, Harry Potter, J.K.
Oh,
Rowling and Harry Potter. I mean, she's made $1 billion um,
yeah.
she's made $1 billion between royalties, not just on her books, but also the spinoff product.
You're absolutely right. And shame on me for not for not thinking of
I got your
that.
back, Jim. So that book that my CEO that we talked about on the podcast, that I wanted to share with you and your in our audience is Story Branding 2.0, written by Donald Miller. So again, it's Story Branding 2.0 by Donald Miller, and yeah, he was very impressed with that. And the lessons I had to teach about branding and the insights and what have you. Now, you had mentioned that Michener was the first big book that you had really delved into, but you are a guy who is writing, who favors novellas in terms of your own writing. Talk about that. Why novellas? I'm curious whether it's you want kind of that sense of satisfaction sooner than later, or whether you feel like, given the current climate in the world with social media and all, you think in terms of people want shorter reads. That's really kind of what they demand, or what?
Well, that's probably all of the above. I find that books that are less, you know, books that are less than these ones that I just described, they're not they're okay. They're entertaining enough, and you're going to get through them. But I always find that they're trying to stretch the book to reach certain levels. A novella is under 40,000 words. So it becomes a novel when it reaches that magic number of over 40,000 words. Well, if my book is done at 36,000 words, I'm done, and I'm not going to stretch it. And you can, as an author who's critical of other writers, and I don't mean critical that I'm a critic or that I'm just critical because I'm interested in how people write. I'm interested in understanding how they write and the stories that they write. You can almost identify when they switch over to adding sections. And they don't work. It's not a natural flow. Now, another thing is,
What do you mean by adding sections, though?
well, you can just tell there's a chapter that doesn't fit, and it might be 5,000 words that they're sticking in there
Just to beef it up, just to puff
to
up the page count?
yeah, to get it over the 40,000 words. I believe that's happening.
And normally they'd go for as much as 70 or 80 or 90,000 for a full length novel, which is,
Absolutely.
well
Ab
beyond the 40. And then
yes.
you've got to look at, I mean, one of the big issues with books, you hear this a lot, that there's this slump in the middle. The beginning and the end is where the action is, but then you get this slump in the middle unless a person really works hard to pay attention to what they're doing and doesn't look to pad the book.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And when I read these books, I can tell when they're padding it. And it bothers me. It makes me want to scream when I see that happening. I just,
I'll add one other thing, Jim. This is a side thing, but you grab a good novel, or you think it's a good novel. The first 25 or 50 pages is really well written, and then the writing just drops off after that, and it just becomes really a plot. It's
right.
just place to place to place plot. But those first 25 or 50 pages, obviously they want to impress their agent and get their agent excited and impress the publisher. But it's a real disappointment when the book starts off with such good language and storytelling, and then takes it that goes off the cliff to some degree.
That's precisely what I'm talking about. It's y- the you,
So you're
my
really saying
hope.
that if I don't focus on trying to reach kind of the standard 300 to 400 page word count, say 70 to 90,000 word count, and I can keep it, you know, slim, that you're not falling into that trap of just padding the book to get to beef up the page count. So when you have written your novellas, you're taking out anything, or you're not including anything that you don't feel like is either well written or relevant to the story.
That's exactly right. I end the novella when I think it's finished, and I don't look back. I don't say, well, gee, if I just added a little bit more. It just doesn't work that way for me. And what I find is people really enjoy reading it over a weekend or a long flight. They said, boy, you really had an interesting story to tell and you told it, and it was, but I was very satisfied. That's important to me. If a reader is satisfied with the story, and I try to end on an up note. I try to make it the ending interesting and make them think about it. And when I wrote Zephyr's War, I struggled with the ending. I couldn't come up with something that was satisfying me. And one day I was in the shower and it all came together. I sat down. I was dripping wet. I had to
Mhm.
write it out because I finally had it. Um, it's I'm at the age where
You never know when it's going to strike.
that's right. I'm at the point in my life where I really, I'm doing this for my satisfaction. And if I can sell books, that's great. But I want the book to be satisfying to me. and uh, and that's why I do it. When that stops happening, I'm done.
Gotcha. Yeah, you know when you're done, when you've gotten that story across. What about short stories? Is that something you've also considered? Because you figure that that's even less than an airplane flight or an entire evening, but you're writing something that is readable in a single sitting. Maybe that doesn't give you enough space though to really feed your soul, your writing soul, so to speak.
Yes, I also enjoy poetry as well. So but those are, it's difficult to sell poetry. It's difficult to sell short stories unless you're doing it for periodical or something of that nature. It's just the novellas seem to be the right length for me.
So you retired from a really successful career in branding and brand management and so on. Uh, did you know when you were heading towards retirement that you wanted to start writing fiction?
No, I after I sold my business, I um, gave a talk at the University of South Florida and had the dean of the business school sitting in the front row. And afterwards, he took me to lunch, and he said, "Jim, did you ever consider um, doing a doctoral course? Doing a doctorate program? It's kind of like, did you leave anything on the table in your business that you really would like to better understand?" and or do something special with. And so I wrote. I became a doctoral student, and I studied some of the things that I was projecting for example, the core brand index was a system where I was measuring corporate brands and then predicting their future based on how much advertising they did. It was a wonderful tool. It was a really a tool that Business Week and the Wall Street Journal loved, but um, it didn't. I mean, I wasn't interested in teaching when I finished my doctoral program, which is, most people do doctorates to be able to become qualified to become professors. And instead of doing that, what I enjoyed most about the doctoral program was research, doing new research, how to research stories and articles and information. And I really enjoyed that. And I wrote a number of white papers while I was in the program, and also The Secrets of Corporate Branding, one more business book while I was in the program. But when I finished, I said, gee, I really like that research and I like writing. Why don't I take a shot at this? And so I started, they suggest you create an outline for a story, and I just couldn't do that. What I do is I write the first sentence of a story, and then the second sentence, third sentence. And if I have a paragraph that really holds together and becomes interesting to me, that's when I expand on it. And the amount I expand on it depends. It could be a short story if I don't have a lot, but it becomes a novel, a novella, if I have enough to make it into a novella. It's a different way of writing. A lot of writers really have a specific way of building their stories. I That's mine. That's my way of doing it.
So you're doing organic writing rather than, it sounds like you don't like the idea of an outline, or do you write a first paragraph or three and then say, I've got something here, I want to continue this, and then you do an outline, or do you do it organically the whole way?
Pretty much organically the whole way. After what I'll do is I'll write a chapter, and I'll let it sit for a week or so, and then take a fresh read of it. And at that point, I'll ask myself, do I have a story here? Will it go in a direction? And I have the vaguest of outlines. It's just like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, and it's like one page, a one page outline. Um, and then and then and then I let the organic take over, and uh, it can overrule that outline. Or I can go back to the outline and see if I'm heading in the right direction. It's not a very structured way of writing,
Hmm. Hmm. Well, some
but
people prefer that
yeah,
because they feel like an outline tends to constrict them, where if it's organic, it allows the characters and the situations to dictate where it goes. Now, it
yes,
can end up going in places that's kind of like, oops, I've just, written myself into a corner. But on the other hand, I know a lot of people just feel like, hey, and I certainly favor organic writing because I feel like it's more real. It's coming out of the moment, and rather than just kind of doping out this labyrinth of an outline.
it's interesting. Painting yourself into a corner is a phrase I often used.
In what regard? Is it in writing, or are you talking
In
about?
writing, right?
Yeah.
In writing, I will say I have friends who will read my work and critique it, and uh, I'll reach a point where I just can't. I don't know what to do, or what the next step, and so I'll have them read it and say, "No, no, it looks like it's really going in this direction." Great, that helps a lot, and so.
Well, what do you find compelling about fiction writing? You obviously tried your hand at it. You liked it. You've now written a few different novellas, and so what does it do for you from an emotional or kind of mental or psychic level?
That's an interesting question. It's very satisfying. I really enjoy the satisfaction of the process and going through the concept, developing the story, writing it the first draft. I enjoy the first edits, going through the entire book and editing it. Uh, and then when you have this, the second complete draft, that's when it starts to become tedious. Then you have to work on the cover, you have to work with your publisher, and
Well, how many drafts do you do? You said when you complete the first draft, I thought I heard you say now you're trying to work on all these other aspects, but you do more than one draft, do you not?
sure, at least two drafts are always required, at least two. And sometimes the third draft is really just fine tuning different lumpy areas that you get where you get feedback from your readers and saying this just doesn't work, or this character. Oh, I have one interesting situation where in Zephyr's War where I killed off one of the main characters, and every reader came back to me and said that that is a mistake. This is a really cool guy, and you're going to make a lot of people angry by killing that person off. And so, I mean, why?
You did it anyway.
No, no. In that case, I didn't. I brought him back and killed off his partner, who was a lot less fun, and was expendable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the series I've watched, Game of Thrones, where they do exactly that. They right off the bat, there was a character
Yeah,
I liked, and they killed him off.
right.
And you saw that over and over again. And speaking of brands, George R. R. Martin is another guy who's a real brand. I mean, Game of Thrones has just been huge.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree.
Now, with novellas, you've explained. You said there's several aspects of novellas that appeal to you. Do you think that nowadays that the getting readership favors the person who writes a more contained novel, something that's a little bit on the shorter side, just based on the lack of attention span that we see so often? I mean, stop and think about it, Jim. The people young people do not watch really television programs. They watch the chopped up, 15 and 30-second sketches from, say, Saturday Night Live, or just items from Stephen Colbert just got his show canceled. All of those shows, all of those nighttime shows have dropped off in terms of viewership. And those just get chopped up in social media, and people like seeing, well, for instance, the opening monologue or something like that. So people don't tend to stick with a narrative or an arc. They tend to they tend to want things chopped up. Now, not everybody's a reader. So, but among readers, do you think that social media has just a current ethos is such that, look, I want it to be short. I want it to be, the shorter and more direct, the more I can tolerate it.
I do think it's a trend. The shorter reads, the books like Chesapeake, I don't think they would are going to be as strong. I mean, I can be wrong, but that's why I'm pursuing this smaller format. I mean, that, and I'm passionate about the smaller size as well.
Hmm.
In Killer App, I have multiple novellas or two novellas in there. So one is Killer App itself, and then the other one is called Artifacts. So, having the number of pages in a book it's not just that, but it's the story itself. Is it interesting? Is it does it keep your interest throughout? And I think the trend is toward the small size.
Hmm. Hmm. I tend to think that too, Jim, but at the same time, we get conflicting information. For instance, Harry Potter, those are big books and they're for kids or young
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
what a great thing it is to think in terms of a young person who can sustain a reading experience for a book that big. You have to think that that probably gets them off in life to um, a desire or a passion for reading and a willingness to spend the time so that they can actually go along on a journey that's not just a short walk. I remember I was working with a guy and he was reading I think it was Mark Halperin book, and he was talking about how beautiful it is. And he says, it's making me sad already, a big book. It's making me sad already because I'm getting to the end of it. And I know this experience is going to come to an end. That's a great thing to hear.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't find too many people who, I mean, I certainly have heard from many people who see a big book and they think, boy, that's a big commitment. And I think I'm going to pass on that. I'll find something shorter to read. So, obviously there's still an appetite for long reads, but I think the prevailing appetite is for something a little bit shorter. Let's talk about your writing regimen. So you're working on something right now, Jim?
Oh, yes, I have. There's and this crosses over that 40,000 threshold. So my novels are getting larger than novellas. So, Ghost Town is a historic novel. That one is at the publisher right now. It's in production, and as I said, it's an historic novel based on the arrogance of leadership in the 1880s in the United States. The Andrew Carnegies and the Fricks and the Mellons and all of that. And so the protagonist in this is one of those people who aspires to be a Carnegie, and the arrogance that causes a tragedy, several tragedies, in fact, is what Ghost Town is all about.
So
And
what's the word count on that one?
what's the what?
The word count. You're saying it's a novel. That one's not
Oh,
a
it's
novella. You said that one's an actual novel.
yeah, it's around 45,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
just slightly bigger. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you were
And
saying, go ahead.
another book that I'm actually in my first draft on is called Undercurrent. And this is the relates to the unintended consequences of unmonitored border crossings. And it's not a political book at all. It's simply talking about the issues a from the personal perspective of these people, and when enough is enough, and they start fighting back, and it might be a little controversial. I don't like being controversial, but uh,
That can get you a lot more sales, you know,
oh,
so it's
yeah, I know.
controversial.
I know. Maybe, all right, it's going to be controversial.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Just go ahead and embrace it. So
So
when you
that's what I'm
are,
working.
yeah, okay. So when you are in the writing process, you're working on a new book, you're in the throes of it. Um, how many hours a day are you putting in?
It depends. Um, I have no pressure to write, so I do it for pleasure, and I am a morning person, so I tend to get up and read the Wall Street Journal, and then get right into my writing, and I'll write a couple of hours, maybe through till lunch, and then in the afternoon I'll read through what I wrote in the morning, and see if it's any good, and go from there. But that's not a strict plan. Sometimes I'll work for weeks in a row, and I really, when I'm on a roll, I will really work hard for a long period of time. Again, I learned that through my doctoral program, how intense you can focus for a long period of time, and that carried over to my writing style.
So you're saying when it almost sounds like you're saying when you're hot, you're hot. So keep going. If you're
Ex-
in a flow, just put in as many hours as possible that are fruitful.
Absolutely, that's exactly right.
And you also were saying that you learned along the way how intensely you can write. Is that what you were talking about? That just when
Yes.
things are going right, you can put in instead of the kind of a standard couple of hours, putting in 4 or 5.
Yes, absolutely. I could work all day when I'm in focused on my work and it's going well. And I find that when I do that, I really am very productive. It's good writing. It's not just filling up the hours. It's good quality. So I love doing that. I try to get as much done as I can when I'm in the zone.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. You want to be in that zone. So, do you write in the same place every day? Do you write at home, and do you have a particular room, or do you have your Archie Bunker chair or recliner that you like to write in?
I have a wonderful room here in Florida, and have another one exactly duplicate of this in Williamsburg, and that's my place where I work. So, and I'm also an artist, so I enjoy, my paintings are here, my artwork is here, my writing is here, and this is my place where I enjoy life.
You got a lot to work on. Then you've got several creative pursuits.
Absolutely.
And do you feel that one feeds the other? Do you feel like because you're doing painting, that also can stimulate creativity in your writing and vice versa?
Well, that's an interesting question because I I tend to do one when I'm tired of the other. And so when I'm kind of like exhausted from writing, I'll put it aside and start painting. And it's a whole different tactile and experiential thing. And I enjoy both immensely, but I don't find that they overlap all that much.
Now, I've been calling to our listeners, I've been calling Jim Gregory, but he publishes his byline on his books as Dr. James R. Gregory. And if you look in the episode notes, I've got a URL to his website where you can see his novels. So, for instance, he had mentioned Killer App. The subtitle on Killer App is Artificial Intelligence Was a Godsend Until It Took Over His Life. And then it says a fictional tale by Dr. James R. Gregory. Zephyr's War, subtitle, decades before Russia invaded Ukraine, Moscow's mafia targeted Kiev's foremost capitalist. And that one says a novella by Dr. James R. Gregory. So you can go to Jim Gregory's website using that link and learn more about him and see all of his books and purchase them there and so on. Get in contact with him and whatnot. So Jim, what are you working on? It sounds like you've got okay, one's in the hands of a publisher, another one you're working on a second draft. Do you have a idea or concept in mind for your next one?
Well,
That,
I
and I
do.
realize you don't want to necessarily spill all the beans, but maybe just a rough overview.
No, this one's a little different. It's called Games We Played as Children, and it is the idea is to tell stories about the games we played as children and to share them with our grandchildren. And I have that situation right now when my grandchildren come over to visit. The first thing they do is they open their iPads and start playing with them. And that's okay for a few minutes, but I want to get them outside, and we're gonna have a game that we're playing. Like tomorrow, I'm going to be with them, and we're going to make contour drawings, if you know what those are. Um,
I
uh,
don't.
I I have large pads of newsprint pads, and contour drawings are where you draw the contour of a dog or a person, and without looking at what you're drawing, and it creates really really neat um, illustrations. And my grandkids are 8 years old and 10 years old, and they're just ripe for this. They're just perfect. And that when they come over to my house, they always say, "Can we go to the art room? Can we do some artwork together?" So,
Got them
I just,
hooked.
yeah, that's the whole idea. I want to keep them hooked, but it includes other games as well. And when I've asked, these are stories that other people are telling me about games we played as children, and when they talk about these games, they get so excited and emotional, and just have such joy in telling me what they did as children. And I think the problem is I don't see this as a book as much as maybe a series of articles, or short stories or something of that nature. But I don't have an outlet for it, so that's where I am with that. I,
Gotcha.
I don't know what
Gotcha.
I'm going to do with it.
Well, Jim, thank you for coming on the program. This has been an interesting conversation, and I wish you best of luck with your future endeavors here. And again, to our audience members, you'll find the URL to Jim's website. You can learn more about Jim Gregory or Dr. James R. Gregory, as
Mhm.
the byline goes. Jim, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.